everyone. Welcome back from break. So I get to introduce our speaker today, and I'm very happy to do so. So we have Rich Lefebvre. Did I get it right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. He's one of our own, class of 2007.
That's right.
Yeah. So class of 2007, he's a pro. And he volunteers at the Blackland Prairie Raptor Center, and he's going to talk to us a lot about raptors. You do everything there, it sounds like.
Pretty much.
Basically,
About
yeah,
everything.
all types of care of the raptors and the place and everything. So it'll be great. So give it up for Rich. I guess we could play it that way. Yeah.
All right. Well, good evening. Thank you all very much for inviting me to speak this evening. You know, I hope a lot of you have probably already seen presentations or programs at the Raptor Center before. This one's going to be a little different tonight. The presentation you're going to see was a collaboration from our executive director, Laura Johnson, and myself. Laura put together a list of all the things she wanted to make sure that I said tonight. And I inserted a few little details that I think you'll find interesting into the presentation. The Raptor Center, it's really a special year for the Raptor Center. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary in November, on November 2nd, a big gala. It's really fantastic. Made it 20 years now. By the way, the Corps of Engineers has renewed our lease of the property for another 20 years. They're very pleased with what's happened there. It fits in with their overall direction of serving the public, and they know that that's what we do through the work we do with the Raptors. So, a lot of you are involved with this, and some of the things I'm going to cover are things you probably know a lot about, but I hope towards the end you're going to see some things you probably haven't seen about the Raptor Center. Let's look at the agenda. If I can get it to move forward here. It's not going forward. All right. These are the things I'm going to talk about. Our overall mission, the numbers from 2023, some new experiences and things we have at the Raptor Center, some organizational enhancements, our next chapter, which I think you'll find very interesting because probably most of you haven't seen that, and then some ways to get involved. So I'll go ahead and, oh, it's working now? Good, thank you. This is a combination of three things that is our mission. The pinnacle of this is raptors. Every one of these things involves and is focused on raptors, okay? Whether it be the rehabilitation of raptors that are injured or sick, or educating the public on raptors and how they're valuable for our environment, or restoring the place that they live, the Blackland Prairie. We have areas at the Raptor Center where we're doing that restoration. So we're covering all the aspects of what raptors need, whether it's rehabilitation or some education to the public or where they live. So those are the three main things that we stand on. Now let's go and take a look at some of the numbers that we've had in the past, and I'm going to spend a little time on this. First one up there is hospital admissions. 2023, we had 702. On an annual basis, we range anywhere from 600 to 800 admissions per year. 2022 was very close to 800. And some years prior to that, we were down as low as 600. So that was pretty much an average year last year as far as admissions to the hospital, the clinic. Some people sometimes ask, okay, well, what is the most common problem that you get into the into the hospital? Does anybody have a feel for that? Anybody have an idea what that might be? What is it? Electrocution is one of the ones. That's pretty fairly rare, though. We don't get too many. Yeah, there we go. Now we're getting close. Okay, orphaned is the #1 thing we get. We get a lot of orphans from windstorms that have blown the nest down, maybe even killed or injured the parents, and so we have a lot of the babies that we have to take care of. So orphans are the most important, the most frequent thing that we can get. What do you think the next one is? Anybody have an idea? Fishing lines, we have a few of those. That's a small number, but we do have the cars. Okay, now we're getting up there. Not quite to where we are. Emaciation is the next one, okay? Think about that. We have all these juveniles, or in fact, they were just not too long ago orphaned, perhaps. And maybe these juveniles are out there and they're not doing very well as far as hunting, so they get emaciated. So that's one of the things we get a lot of. And we have a pretty good success rate treating those because we're able to provide them the fluids and the food and the medications that they need to recover. The next one, I think somebody was already on to, it's head traumas. Okay, whether that be they get hit by a car or they fly into a building or a window. So those are the next things we get. Then wing fractures are next. Get a lot of those. There's 3 different bones in their wing, and any one of those could be broken. And we're pretty successful now at getting those to be recovered, especially if the fracture is not near the joints. From there on down, we have another 50 different types of things that can happen. Electrocution being one and some other, but there's smaller frequency items. Oh yeah, sure, we get if you use the type of poison for rats, which causes the blood to thin out, they don't die very quickly, and sometimes the raptors will get them and eat them, and then they get poisoned and their blood thins out. So that's not very good to use that in the environment. So we also get gunshot wounds, but it's a very infrequent thing. We do have an X-ray lab at the Raptor Center, and we do do X-rays, and those become very obvious. We can see the bullet fragments in their bodies. And as a result of that, our automated medical record, which we use to track all of our birds, automatically sends to the game wardens in the state information about that particular bird, where it was found, and the type of injury, the gunshot wound. We're not sure. We've never really followed up too much with the game wardens on what do they do, but we suspicion that if there's multiple gunshot victims from a certain zip code, then they get out there and find out who's doing it. All right, so that's our hospital. We have a lot of volunteers. That number has actually grown quite a lot. I think it's up closer now to about 140 volunteers that we have. We do have an automated system called Sling that is used to track all of the volunteers so that we can know how much work they do and what they are, the different categories of work that they're working with. We have a number of education programs every year. In 2023, we had 186 programs that we did, and that got out to 6,231 program attendees. I can tell you right now that number right now is about triple that for this year already, okay? That's not quite up to what we were prior to COVID, okay? We were running at about 30,000 attendees for our programs prior to COVID, but we're rapidly approaching that. We might even get close to that this year. So those are students, adults, all over North Texas that we're reaching with our programs. The visitors is really primarily about our first Saturday programs that we have. We have special visitors that come, or people that just visit to see the Raptor Center. Another one which is interesting is the 5,000 pounds of food. We have freezers full of just about everything that you can imagine at the Raptor Center, whether it be squirrels, rabbits, quail, rats, mice. We've got frozen everything. And it's pretty much everything that these raptors might go and get in the wild, and we want to make sure they're being fed the same thing. And so you can imagine there's quite a bit of cost involved in maintaining a large amount of food like that. All right, let's move on a little bit here. Let's talk specifically about the volunteer opportunities. There are quite a number, and I know Laura wanted me to go into detail about that. I have some notes regarding that. There's a whole bunch of volunteer opportunities. There's admin receptionists, animal care specialists, building and maintenance people, community engagement, fundraising, education, first Saturday greeters, IT work. If you're good with computers, we'd love to have you help out there. Nature guides, park maintenance, park trail conservation. I mean, the rehab folks, care of the rodents. Some of you are like, I know what I'm talking about there. We have a mouse house where we raise our own mice, because in the process of doing the clinical work, when a bird is rehabilitated and we think it might be ready to go back out into the wild, we give it a mouse test. We put it into a large flight cage that has a seal at the bottom, and we then release live mice in there. And we let them we measure their weight at the beginning of a week, and at the end of the week, if they've maintained weight or gained weight, we know they're catching the mice that we released in there, and they're now capable of going back out into the wild. Those mice are expensive. So we wanted to have them. We've got our own mouse house and are raising the mice. It's really pretty easy. We've got a really good system as far as, I don't have a picture of it, but if you're interested in that, in seeing that, there is a video on the Raptor Center website which goes into every aspect of our operation. You go to the About section, and I believe it's under facilities, under the About section, and you'll see a video. It runs about 15 minutes and talks about every aspect of our operation. And you'll get to see a picture of the mouse house, the interior. All right. There's also opportunities in leadership, whether that be some general administration, leads in the area of animal care and rehab, park coordinator, store coordinator, scout program coordinator. We got a lot of different opportunities for you out there. You don't have to be working specifically with the birds. All right. What do we got next? Internship opportunities. These are really interesting. We offer to bring in students for several weeks where they get an opportunity to learn more in detail about what we do in the various aspects of the Raptor Center. Education, people that may come in and learn about how to do programs and get out into the community with new educational opportunities. Also animal care. They may take time to go down and work with our education birds and take care of them, what we have to do for them as far as the feeding and entertainment. Also in rehab, they can come in there and spend several weeks learning about what we do as far as the care of birds that are injured. I know we've set this up already with Collin College. A lot of their students are coming in for internships now. The veterinary medicine, we do have a full-time veterinarian on staff, and she will do more detailed work with those who are going through vet programs, and they can spend an internship with her. Also, we have internships in marketing. If you want to help us get the word out or help do some fundraising, then those are opportunities that are also available. Okay, let's see. Research partnerships with universities. As I already mentioned, Collin College and some of the other universities like Texas A&M have an interest in establishing more of a relationship with us for research opportunities. In fact, just in the last week or so, one of our staff members collaborated on a paper which was published in a research journal. So that's our first paper that's been published from our research, which was terrific. Okay, we also have enhanced protocols now that we have our veterinarian on staff. She's improved a lot of the treatment programs that we go through for the various types of injuries that I've already mentioned. And we record all of that in an automated medical record. And so it's pretty straightforward. You can actually go out to our website, or there is a website available where you can actually see all the birds that are in our clinic at any one time and see what their treatments have been. And many times when people bring birds in, they want to follow how we're doing with that bird. And so we give them the bird ID and they can then track that bird from our website. Okay, we're also increasing our community involvement in many, many different ways. We've done more and more of the outreach to festivals where we are talking about how important the raptors are in the environment. And the next thing I wanted to cover was, I believe, well, one of the things I wanted to cover was not the community engagement, which is up there, but I wanted to talk just a little bit about the associations that we're involved in. In the area of our education birds, we have adopted a program of training called from the International Association of Avian Trainers and Educators. And myself and several and the other trainers that we have here, will have here out later tonight, they've all been exposed to that training. And it involves a program where the birds come first. In other words, if a bird doesn't want to do something, then we don't force them to do anything in our education programs. And that's very important for the training. You don't want to reward a bird for a behavior that you don't want. And learning how to do that is not easy. You can make mistakes very easily in that process. So that's one of the associations that we're involved with. Another one is the Association of the Nature Center Administrators. There's a lot that goes on, as you've seen in what I've listed already, behind the scenes besides the bird work to run a raptor center like this. And so it takes some training, and there's a lot of help out there through the Association of Nature Center Administrators. We're also a part of the Raptor Research Foundation, which was connected to that research paper that I mentioned just a moment ago. All right, let's go through these items here that we've got up here. We also conduct behind the scenes tours. The Raptor Center is really, the physical property is broken up into two major sections. One is the public area, and one is an area we call the private area, or that's where we've got it reserved for the birds. That's our operations area. Normally, you're not going to go in there and see that, but we do on occasion conduct behind the scenes tours. We also have a program where you can get involved with painting with petunia. I don't know if any of you have seen that. We have a really very, very smart black vulture, and she knows what to do. When we put the paint out and put a canvas down, she goes and gets the paint and puts it on the canvas. And we've been able to raise money through selling those paintings. We've also done some independent lectures on various topics, as I already mentioned, about the community engagement booths. You can also get a raptor release opportunity to be a part of that. Most of the time now when we release raptors, we do release them right out of the carrier. Now, we have done some releases in the past where people are holding them and actually releasing them by hand. But generally, this is a less stressful approach, and we've been doing this mainly lately. Tiny Tykes is pretty new. Actually, Laura, I wasn't really very aware of this because she says, yeah, it's pretty new, but we're trying to come up with programs for the very, very young, okay? I've done programs where I've had three-year-olds right in front of me, and it's hard when you're in a library and you've got 3-year-olds in front of you and 80-year-olds behind you and back. trying to come up with all the things that they might be interested in is difficult. So we're going to come up with specific Tiny Tykes programs, which you can sign up for. Also, the Scouts, the Boy Scouts have been terrific over the years. We've had many Eagle Scout projects that have been done at the Raptor Center, and we're very grateful for that. We have many that are being proposed and are coming down the pipe. And also, we do badge workshops. If they want to learn about a certain skill that's related to the Raptors, then we can do that too. Field trips, we have people, our property is available on the weekends, and large organizations can come in and reserve that to use the property on the public side. And usually we'll get a program or two in during that period of time. We'll bring a few birds over and talk to them about our raptors and show them some of our raptors. Okay, let's see now. I got to move on here. Oh yeah, one of our newest, although when this picture was done or this slide was done, yeah, that was our newest raptor, but we have another one that just came in, a new ambassador. We have a juvenile barred owl now. So we are very excited about that. And I've already mentioned the training methodology. We have also started doing some free flying. Petunia, which is that, the black vulture, she is pretty much able to be out in the open and free flies all the time. And she's very obedient, very smart. And we have done a lot of the flying of our birds to give them exercise within an enclosed space. But we're going to work eventually to where we can get those birds out into programs and do free flying in the programs themselves. Okay, and we also have a new Raptor Ambassador Manager, Cheryl Circo. I think that's the right how to pronounce it. And she's on board now, and that's made a huge difference. She came from the World Bird Sanctuary in St. Louis. That's where she had most of her experience. And so we're really fortunate to have her now because she is fully trained on the IAATE methodology and has made huge progress in training our ambassadors. All right, now let's see. I kind of covered a little bit about what we've done, where we've been, and what we do regularly, but let's talk now about some things you may not have heard about, which is the future. Where are we going? We've got 4 phases in our program, and it used to be there were phases 1 and 2 were independent, but from a cost perspective, it turned out it was better if we do the 2 things together. And I'll talk about it in just a minute, and I'm going to go through the other phases also. To give you the easiest way to see this is via an aerial picture of the Raptor Center. Phase 1 was going to be the creation of this building right up here in the upper right-hand corner. That's the Nature Center and Event Center. That's a 10,000 square foot building. And I'm going to go into more detail of that in just a minute, where we can do all the program, the education programs. We have facilities for birds over there so that we can bring them in. And it turns out that the building down here, which is the new hospital, the permanent hospital, if we built that hospital along with the new nature center together, it's much less expensive to do them at the same time. That's why phases 1 and 2 were put together. This building down here is about 7,000 square feet. That one, as I mentioned already, was 10,000 square feet. Now you can compare that, look right down here. These 2 double wide trailers right now, that's where we have the hospital and the administration right now. So it's pretty tight quarters right now. So this is going to be a major expansion when we have this major hospital here. Let's take a look at what those are going to actually look like. This is the architect's drawing, and the architect, by the way, volunteered his time to do this. It was Ken Kessler. He drew this picture. This is what the hospital would look like. basically up here, you would get birds coming in. Whoops. You lost something here. Did I step on something? Oh, there it is. Okay. I don't think it was me. But oops, let me go. No, now I'm going to go back. There we go. There we go. You bring a bird in here, people are there to greet them. Then they go immediately into isolation here, or an admittance area. And then they move over here to the exam area, surgery if necessary in here. We have a laboratory here, everything that's needed, a food prep area. These are all the intensive care units down here for the small birds, the large birds. Everything that's needed, every function that we have today in a very small space now gets a really good space. The interesting thing about this building is that we also wanted to be able to have limited tours so we could show people what we're doing, but we didn't want to contaminate the environment. So what we've done is that all of these rooms have windows on the inside, every one all the way around, so that tourists can come in and see everything that's happening as we go around, and can take them back out without exposing them to any of the operating areas and contaminating anything in those areas. So that's 7,000 square feet. Now let's take a look at what it looks like from the outside. This I'm going to give credit to Bill Brady. That's his drawing. He's right here. This is his drawing of what that 2D drawing you just saw. This is what it would look like when it's completed. This is a picture of the Nature Center or Event Center. This one, it's got a little bit more open space in the entry area. Did I do that? There we go. Oops, back up. Yeah, you enter here and you have some space to bring in large groups, and all of these walls here are going to have glassed in areas that have exhibits, educational exhibits. So you could take a small group, and walk around and talk about all of the things, these various educational topics that are going to be on the wall. We also have 3 different areas for raptor programs, each one of them which has a staging area right here, for example, for raptors. So a raptor can be brought in here and is prepared to come out and do a program in front of the groups. Okay, so we can have 3 different programs going. We also have a very large patio. And these walls right here, as you can see, can be folded in so that we can open this all up to be one giant area and have major events here if we need to, including all this open space out here. So it's a combination nature center and event center. This one is about 10,000 square feet. And this is what it will look like. As you can imagine, these are not going to be cheap. We'll take every penny we can get. My focus over the next however long it takes is to get the money to build these 2 buildings. And it's about 17,000 square feet, but there's a lot more to it than just the buildings themselves. There's the electrical, the plumbing, the water supply. All of that has to be brought in because it's a pretty large, with 66 acres, you have some distance to bring all that stuff in. And the engineers have estimated that it's about $20 million to do both buildings. It would be more expensive if we did them separately. So I'm going to be working on that. If you know anybody that has 20 million that would like to donate, please give me their name. I want to call them and talk to them and present to them. All right, let's talk now about the other phases that we have up here. In that picture of the overall Raptor Center layout, in the public side near the new nature center were a number of flight enclosures that we want to add for what we call exhibit birds, birds that may not be qualified to be ambassadors to go out in programs, but are good to have to show people as in an exhibits type setting. We also might put some of our ambassadors in those on occasion, but generally speaking, they'll be exhibit birds. So we want to create in phase 3 a number of those around the new nature center. And then finally, we have a number of enclosures for our existing ambassadors, and we'd like to add a few more. There has been a design done for a very large expansion, which would be very expensive, but I think we're going to cut that back a little bit in the phase 4 to maybe be like 4 more flight enclosures. But those 4 enclosures will be large enough and meet the minimum standards for eagles, so that we will be able to have eagles in the ambassador program at the Raptor Center. We've been able to get them anytime we want them. I mean, the Alaska Raptor Center has lots of bald eagles, and they would love to give some to us for education purposes. So we just have to get the space for them. Finally, the southern part of the property is very forested. It's recently been cleared of some of the invasive species, eastern red cedars. And the plan is to preserve that as native area and have just trails for walking through there, and that's it. That's the long-term plan. And that would be out in phase 5. Okay. We've already talked a lot about volunteers, work days where if you want to come out and build a bunch of owl houses, you can do that. Event sponsorships. For example, we have Halloween coming up. Some of you may have been to that before. HEB is sponsoring that. We have avian artistry, that's the petunia drawings and all that. And actually some other things. We actually have evenings where you can come out and paint, and you'll have a model, which is one of our ambassador birds to paint from, okay? The credit union, Array Credit Union is sponsoring that. The fishing derby is being sponsored by Raising Cane's. We also have sponsorships coming from Samsung, the Dallas Baptist University, and Wild Birds Unlimited. So we'd really like to have you support our mission. And if you want to do that, here's how to contact us. There's the website, the email address, and specifically, Laura wanted me to bring up this slide. If you want to text BPRC and that number, if you want to make a donation, there's how you do it. Yeah, everybody put 1,000 up and we'll get to the 20 million. So what questions would you have of me about the Raptor Center? You've now seen the plans. The plans are complete about what we're going to build. Yes.
So I have a question for donations. Are you, oh, sorry, I almost broke my own rule here. Are you guys, do you guys have a 501c3 because I know a lot of companies, if you donate through your company website, they'll match it if it's a nonprofit. So
Yes, the Blackland Prairie Raptor Center is a 501c3 organization. So it's pretty straightforward to be able to donate to us. Yes, in the back. Yeah, the question is how much of the prairie would be sacrificed for the expansions? Well, you've got the two buildings, it's 17,000 square feet there. But compared to the 66 acres that we're on, that's a very small percentage. Also, you've got the trails are going to take up some of the space. Again, not a huge percentage of the overall space that we would like to redevelop, or not redevelop, but maintain as native as possible. So the big things are the two buildings that are going to be coming up. And there'll be some of the new flight cages, which again, that's going to be small. That's probably under 1,000 square feet. Who said, the question was about parking. Yeah, parking, we have a parking area which is very old, okay? But what we're gonna do, instead of expanding the parking to cover a lot of the prairie restoration areas that we've already established, what we're gonna do is firm those up, refine them so that they actually have painted spots for each car. And when you do that, when you actually refine the existing space that we could have up to 160 cars, which we estimate for most of our major events would be sufficient. We have talked to the Corps of Engineers about the possibility, if we have a huge event of some kind, something very special, that we can use the overflow parking down at the boat ramp, which has a huge parking lot, and use a shuttle to take people over to the Raptor Center. Yes.
Can you put prairie on the roofs of those big buildings?
Can we put prairie on the roofs of those buildings? I don't know. I'd have to talk to Bill and find out. Right. I'm sure it can be done. I would bet it would be more expensive.
That
Mhm.
plays into my question, not to add to your expense, but my question is, and there's lots of grants for things like this. Is there interest in green, blue or otherwise environmentally friendly infrastructure? Something like this, I think, could really be an example to probably even the state at large. I mean, every community. Lucas is very lucky to have such a implementation project. That's cool. So.
All right, well, thank you. Well, yeah, if you want to know about what kind of the things we might do in a green manner, I know one thing we have talked about is collection of rainwater from these roofs. And that's something that has been a topic of discussion behind the scenes to see what we could do there. Plants on the roof, though, I'm not so sure about. That might be just too much. Might not be, I don't know. Yeah. Yes, and another question? We have a bird blind already, okay? That does have a water source to it. Yes, we do. We have that.
Rich, back in the day when I was working at the Raptor Center, it was really primitive compared to what you're planning here, which is really elaborate. What plans are made to help people like me and others like me to have access to your hospital, to your viewing areas? Even to today, could I go out there today and watch a program in this wheelchair?
And the question is, have we made provisions for all volunteers, even someone that might be in a wheelchair to be out? Everything that we're going to be doing out there is going to be ADA compliant. And to that end, one of the expenses that's really, that we're having to put in is we're going to be tearing up all of the the big loop concrete area that was up on there. You might not have seen it, but we have a concrete pathway that goes all the way around of the public area. That's all going to be removed, and we're going to be putting in a much wider path that's much thicker, because we have to have transportation for people that need to get close to the nature center but can't walk in. So we have made provisions for that. What else? One more, okay.
This is probably an obvious question, but I know you have different phases, but the building phase sounds like it's gonna take a long time. And so does that mean you can't get to the eagle phase until, 10 years or whatever this is gonna take?
I think that can we do things out of order is what
Yeah,
your question on these
exactly, yeah.
phases. Yes, we could. We've just set a priority on the phases we have. But if we happen to have money that came in for something else and we might do it ahead of time, that's possible, okay? Each one of those enclosures for the eagles is probably going to be $25,000 each, something in that range. And that number keeps getting bigger. And the 20 million has been it used to be less than that. It was 15, now it's 20. Every day we wait, it gets more expensive. Well, we do have one more thing to show you tonight. I have one of our ambassadors is here, so we're going to get to see one. We have two of our trainers here, Karen and Nikki. Nikki has one of our ambassadors here. This is a bald eagle, right? No. I know all of you probably are very aware of birds and all the species. There are a lot of birders here. But yeah, this is an owl. Who knows what this is? It is a screech owl. It is an eastern screech owl, not a western. Eastern screech owls, if you want to be able to identify them, have a grayish colored beak. The westerns have a brownish colored beak. But other than that, they look pretty much the same. You won't find the westerns until you get out further into, say, Colorado, New Mexico, and further west. And so they also come in two colors. We have grays and reds. Okay, this is our red. Oh, someone asked, is this Otis? No, this is Ginger. We do give them names, but they don't recognize their names like a domesticated animal. But we have multiple. We actually have 1, 2, 3 screech owls in the ambassador program. And so it's easier to tell a volunteer who to work with by having them named. And believe it or not, even if they're the same color, you can tell the difference. Once you get used to seeing them, you'll know them, okay? They all have different mannerisms, characteristics, body behaviors, things like that, that the trainers all know how to recognize those things. Now, because they hunt at night, what sense do they use to hunt with? Hearing, okay, very good. Now, those things sticking up, are those the ears? No, okay, you guys are really, you guys are the best class. Yeah, those are called plumicorns, and they're feather tufts that are used to camouflage. And because they're a small raptor, and so they have to be careful because the big raptors eat the little raptors. Okay, so they hide during the day by getting up next to the tree bark. 80% of the eastern screech owls we have in this area are gray because most of the trees around here have a grayish bark. However, if you go further east into Texas, you see things like the more eastern red cedars, some bodark trees, which have more of a reddish tone to their bark, and you'll find more of these red phased or morphed eastern screech owls. And it's interesting, we talked about them using their hearing. I love to talk about how they actually do that, okay? That little brain in there, thousands of times per second, is calculating whether that sound is getting to each ear at the same time. And they don't have symmetrical ears. They're asymmetrical. Got one down low on the left and one up high on the right. That way they can hear both up and down and left and right. They can discern that. So they know that when the sound gets to each ear at the same time, their face is pointed directly at the source of the sound. So it can be completely dark, black out. They can't see anything. but they fly through the air and get close. When they get close, they know their face is pointing close to, or to that source of the sound. They bring their talons forward and grab their prey. That's how they hunt at night. Now, would it be a good thing or a bad thing if they made a lot of noise when they're flying? Be very bad, because the prey could hear them coming and they couldn't hear the prey. So owl feathers have evolved and adapted over time to be silent. They have a kind of a velvety coating. They have a leading edge fringe which breaks up the airflow so that they are totally silent when they fly. That's just a little bit of I've given you an excerpt of a program. So whenever we bring an owl out, that's one of the things, some of the things that we talk about. Yes?
Question, how old is Ginger?
Ginger is, came to the Raptor Center in 2021. She was a juvenile at that point, I believe, or maybe a year old. So she was a baby, so that means she's 3. She's 3 years old. Yeah. Yes. How do you tell males from females? In the raptor world, generally speaking, the girls are much bigger than the boys, about 30% bigger than the boys. So when the bird comes into the hospital, one of the things we do initially is weigh them. And we have weight ranges for all species, both the males and females. Tough part about that is sometimes the weight ranges overlap. So if they fall in that range, we don't know. It turns out it's become very easy and inexpensive to do that through DNA testing. It's less than $20 now to do a DNA test to determine if they're male or female. All of their reproductive organs are inside their bodies. Other questions about, yes? Ginger was raised at the Illinois Raptor Center in what's called a captive breeding program. They have a special license there to raise eastern screech owls for educational purposes. And that's how we got this one and one other one. Yes, she is an imprint. An imprint means that she looks to humans as their source of food. And it doesn't take very long for you to imprint a raptor, okay? When we raise babies in the Raptor Center, we have we have to go in with camouflage over our body. I mean, it's actually, we drape some cloth over so that they don't know, we don't speak, because if your voice can actually imprint also. And it's especially critical when you're feeding them. You don't want them to associate the food and the humans. Outside of that, you can get away with a little bit, but if you're feeding, you do not want to have them see you or talk. You don't want to talk, either one. The worst ones are the vultures. They can imprint with just one feeding, and that's it, and they're imprinted for life. And that's what happened with the one you saw in our pictures here, Petunia. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Yes. Well, that's a great question. What does she do outside of that? We have an enrichment program. We actually work hard at that to provide enrichment for all of our ambassador birds, whether that's rolling up a piece of paper into a ball, which is something that they don't see, okay? Or putting food into something that they have to go get it out of there. All of those types of enrichment things are being thought up all the time, and I can't even name all the different ones that they've used, but lots of colored balls and colored things inside their enclosures and we change them out a lot because we want them to see something new and different all the time. Inside their enclosure, they're free flying, okay? Right now, she is attached to the handler. There are 2 pieces of leather attached around their ankles that is only about, in this case, about 5 or 6 inches in length. Those pieces of leather are called jesses, and they stay on the bird when they're in their enclosure. but that leash that attaches the jesses to the glove is not there. So they are flying all around and doing whatever they want. In fact, we might not have had this bird come tonight if it didn't want to work. That's a part of our IAATE training, is that the birds decide what happens. So tonight, this bird stepped up, came over, got on the glove on its own. So that we're very happy about that. This bird decided it wanted to come and work tonight. Do we have more being born there? You have to have, well, we have what's called a education permit for each bird, okay? We also have a rehab permit to do rehab. We have a salvage permit to salvage wings and feet for educational purposes for birds that die in the hospital. We do not have a breeding permit. That's what you have to have the male and female together. Each bird has its own enclosure, so they're by themselves, okay? However, they do lay eggs. Did Sweet Pea lay eggs this year? I don't think she did. I don't think she did. She did not. I think Pepper did lay an egg this year. Yeah. I can't remember. I don't keep track of all of that. But yes, they do occasionally lay eggs. Sweet Pea for many years laid eggs every year. Question in the back? Yes. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. In general, raptors that are in the wild live a much less period of time than the ones that are in captivity. It's twice as long in captivity. This bird would go 5 or 6 years in the wild, 10 to 12 in captivity. We do have an exception. One of our eastern screech owls, in fact, it's the only bird that we have now that was here when I joined 17 years ago, started doing volunteer work. And that's Sweet Pea, and she's 21 years old. I think she's 22, that's right. Great, yeah, that's right. And she probably is the oldest eastern screech owl in the United States in captivity. Mm-hmm. Yes. The species that we have are not endangered or protected, except we might want to talk about the American kestrel. The American kestrel in the New England states is now what's the word? There's a word for it. It's not endangered. It's a step in between. Threatened. That's it. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, they are threatened in the New England states, and they don't know yet why that's happening. As far as endangered in the United States, the eagle and the peregrine falcon used to be on the endangered list, but we've done a wonderful job of bringing them back, okay? Peregrine dropped off in, I think, 1999, and the bald eagle dropped off of that in 2007, I think, something in that range. But the Aplomauto falcon, as well as the California condor, are both endangered. That falcon is only in a very small part of New Mexico, but it is endangered. Those are the 2 raptors in the country that are endangered. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they always accuse me of talking too much during the program, so I apologize. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you all very much.
Okay. Oh, good. Just making sure this is on. I just want to say a quick, Rich, on behalf of the Blackland Prairie chapter, your fellow members, thank you so much for coming and bringing this presentation. And hopefully everyone paid attention, especially to the call for volunteers and donations.
Right.
So